Good afternoon and welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of International Falls for Monday, October 16th. Would ask all to please arise and pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would ask the City Administrator to note the roll call with all members of the Council present. Move to the agenda and approval of the agenda. There are additions on new business. Item number 2, the appointment of a full-time patrol officer. And then under correspondence and reminders, there are some items, but the only action item would be under new business. Council's pleasure with the agenda and the addition.
I'll move with the agenda.
Motion by Councillor Droba to approve the agenda with the addition. Second by Councillor Pearson. Discussion on the motion or the agenda.
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
I would just note that number 3 under new business is actually being proposed for deletion as well.
Thank you. Thank you. The maker of the motion amends it to include the deletion of item number 3 from new business. What's the second? To that deletion. Thank you. So we have those two changes to the agenda. Further discussion on the agenda? Question?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Agenda is approved. Thank you. We'll move to the minutes of the October 2nd regular City Council meeting. Council's pleasure with those minutes.
Move.
Motion by Councillor Briggs to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second by Councillor Droba. Discussion on the motion or the minutes. Hearing none, question on the approval of the minutes.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion is carried and the minutes of October 2nd are approved. Thank you. Next is the resolution on transfers and payment of claims. We have transfers to the general fund from the Water and Sewer Fund of $18,285, to the Permanent Improvement Fund from the Water and Sewer Fund $25,000, and to the Reserve for Capital Outlay from the Water and Sewer Fund $17,428.
Move, Mr. Mayor.
Accept your motion and the resolution. The accounts payable for the City of International Falls, those claims are $598,123.70. Airport Commission claims of $20,180.92. Library Board claims of $10,612.34. We have a motion from Councillor Jacksaw to approve the resolution for the transfers and the payment of claims. Second by Councillor Pearson. Discussion on the motion or the resolution. Hearing no discussion, the Chair would place the question on the resolution.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. The resolution is approved and the payment of claims and transfers will take place. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that is not on the agenda that wishes to approach the council?
Yes. Good afternoon. I have a question here. Inasmuch as it says the open forum is to discuss agenda, a business that is not on the agenda here. There is something on the agenda that I'm very interested in, and that's number 4 on new business. When would be the appropriate time for the public to have some comments on this?
We would certainly allow comments during that council discussion on that item.
Will be allowed?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone further that wishes to speak to council on any items that's not on the agenda? If not, there's an opportunity at the end of the meeting for additional audience participation on any item. Thank you. We'll move to the consent agenda, and we have license renewals under the consent agenda. Cater for You LLC, an itinerant restaurant license. DNS Pizza Incorporated, doing business as Domino's Pizza, a restaurant license. Kleinfelter Synergy LLC, doing business as McDonald's of International Falls, a restaurant license. MW Friends Incorporated, doing business as Friends Garbage Service, garbage hauler license. Mr. Faith's Sound and Light Incorporated, dance permit license and theater license. Pete Ham Food Service Incorporated, doing business as Hardee's of International Falls, a restaurant license. And Sandy's Place LLC, a restaurant license. Your pleasure with the consent agenda. Motion by Councillor Briggs to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Councillor Pearson. Question?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Consent agenda is approved. Thank you. Move to new business, and item number 1 is to consider approval of the Paul Bunyan Drug Task Force Interagency Agreement effective January the 1st, 2018, which includes the payment of $3,500 for regular membership fee and authorizes the necessary signatures. Also, we would hear from Sergeant Rob Billings of the Paul Bunyan Drug Task Force Commander. He's with the Beltrami County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Billings, if you would please come forward. Sure. Or Sergeant Billings. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me. Just quick, I'll give a quick overview of what the task force looks like. The Paul Bunyan Drug Task Force was actually started in 1988, and in 1989 they began being funded through the state OJP grant. That money has continued since then. And of course our task force has changed the outlook of the counties and cities that have been involved in it. Currently we have Beltrami County, Hubbard County, Cass County. We also work on the Leech Lake Reservation and the White Earth Reservation, and then some of our agents are also federally deputized and work on the Red Lake Reservation. So at this point we have several individuals that work with the task force. We're a fairly large group. We bring a lot of people to the table. The nice thing about that is when a different area needs any assistance, we're able to pull from a larger pool of people. And we have a lot of experience that's come with it. Some of our guys have been doing narcotics work for years, and some are newer, and so we kind of have a mix in between. Me personally, I was on the drug task force for 6 years as an agent and went to supervision as a sergeant, and then I came back, and now I'm in my 3rd year as the commander of the drug task force. And so I've kind of been through the ebbs and flows of the task force, but it's always one of those things that's kept pretty steady over the years. With being added to the task force, it's kind of a force multiplier for your agencies. It brings that extra, like I talked about earlier, the experience, but also manpower. So being that we are a drug task force doesn't mean that the only thing we ever work on is narcotic work. We do a lot of violent crime work, sex trafficking work, basically anything that pops up where your agency is in need of some bodies or experience or equipment. With our task force, we have a large array of equipment that we've purchased over the years that we use to assist us in these narcotics investigations, and so we're able to add that piece to it. the addition of International Falls and the possibility of Coochin County would just help us with that kind of that thoroughfare of narcotics that come up from either the cities or even come from our area in Beltrami County, and we're able to kind of connect the dots and work these much more progressively, and with giving the assistance to your agent up here or your departments. Pretty much, kind of, I guess I'm more or less just, if there's any questions that you guys have about what we do, or
Maybe ask Chief if he has any comments first before we go to questions.
I think Sergeant Billings explained that quite well.
Very good.
No, I don't have.
Thank you. All right, questions? Councilor Droba.
Is it slightly unique that we're a city to jump into the task force rather than the counties? Because that was discussed at length at our Budget and Finance Committee meeting.
no, it's pretty normal, and I left that out. I should have said that too as well. Along with the counties and the reservations, we also have the city of Bemidji and the city of Park Rapids that are also full-time members of the task force. So it's actually probably, a lot of times, especially with our area where we're spread out, we have more narcotic work that ends up happening in the cities than it does out in the county. And so it's by no means unique. It's pretty normal for that. That's where, I mean, as far as Beltrami County, we probably do 80% of our work in or around just the outskirts of Bemidji. So, no, it's definitely, and those individuals in the city they're gonna have a pretty good knowledge base of what's going on.
Other questions on the part of the council? I have a couple, and would ask, what is your relationship with other drug task force? I think there's one in the Duluth Iron Range area, and are there others that you might be working with, or?
Yeah, the nice thing about the multi-jurisdictional task forces, they don't allow just one county to be a part of it, so they have to be multiple counties or cities. And the nice thing about it is that we're a large group. I mean, we're a large area that we cover, but we don't cover everything. And narcotics dealers, sellers, users, they travel wherever they feel like. There's no boundaries. So we have a pretty good working relationship with all the task forces in the state. We're all funded through the same grant, so we have training together. All the commanders, I have phone numbers and contacts in all these different areas. We continually call different areas and ask for their expertise, because they know the people. If somebody comes to our town and they say they're from southern Minnesota, I have one quick phone call and I can find out a lot of information about that person. So we do have a good working relationship. Like I said, we're all part of the same grant, and so we're always working together throughout the year.
The second question would then be with regard to other agencies, and what I'm thinking in the Bemidji-Beltrami area, I believe you have the BCA as well as the FBI located there, and do you have relationship or working relationship with those folks?
Yes, we do. Right now, they're in transition, but they have an actual narcotics agent that works out of Bemidji, and then they also have one that's over by Grand Rapids, and then they have agents all the way over to Grand Forks. And all those individuals, they're just another asset that we're able to use. BCA is obviously an assisting agency. They are always more than willing to jump in and help out, and they're also willing to provide their equipment that they have as well, and their expertise anytime that we need it.
Again, other questions on the part of the council or administration?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to point out that I happened to, knowing that this was going to be on our agenda, I was reading the Northern Light Region newspaper, and on October 4th they had an article, and I included it in your packet, where an individual was facing felony charges. He was from Pillager, but he had prior felony arrests and convictions in Pennington County and Crow Wing County in Minnesota, and then also North Dakota. And then Lake of the Woods County was working with the Pine and Prairie Drug Task Force, and they did a controlled buy in Baudette of this same individual. So it just really illustrates very clearly, in something most recent, the extent that buyers travel. And so having this larger jurisdictional area and cooperation between these various drug task forces is real important to try and curb the drug trafficking in the area.
Like I also said earlier, a lot of our agents are cross-deputized as federal agents with there's an FBI task force out of Bemidji. And so that just also opens up a whole new batch of people and equipment and databases, intel, that type of thing. So we're able to, I mean, a lot of our investigations we know are coming from areas like Detroit, Chicago, Minneapolis. And so, one quick phone call, and we're able to find out lots of information about these individuals that are out of our state even. So we consistently work with other states to try to track these individuals down and stop it where it starts. And that's the big part about having an actual task force is road officers are able to do their investigation, and then they kind of come to a point where, they have to go and take care of calls for service. And so with the task force, that individual is able to continue with that investigation and bring it to another level. The state kind of did a number on the narcotics statutes back last year in August, and so making a case that actually is able to stick in get to a point where that individual actually goes to prison for what they do. I mean, they've committed a pretty serious crime. That level it's risen quite a bit for us, and so having that agent that's able to build that case up further than just the lowest level is very important for your area.
Well, this article that the city administrator has pointed out certainly highlights exactly what you said. They know no boundaries. This individual has obviously been around, and I don't know what folks that have been in trouble before, obviously they didn't learn and they're out doing it again in the case of this individual. So certainly I think it's the belief, certainly my belief, and many citizens that we have more drugs and certainly need more enforcement than what we've had. And so I'm very pleased that the chief came forward with the recommendation to join the task force, and that the city council's willing to fund that investigator to become a part of your team. Other questions or comments? City administrator, city attorney, anyone else?
I think it's an excellent, I would encourage the lawyers to participate. Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Millings, for making the trip up from Beltrami County, and hopefully it was a nice, colorful trip up here this afternoon.
Definitely is, yes. At least the weather's nice.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. The council's pleasure then with the agreement and the role of the investigator. Motion by Councillor Briggs to approve the interagency agreement. Second by Councillor Pearson. Further questions or discussions with regard to the motion or the agreement?
Mayor, thank you. I would just point out that the agreement that we've included in your packet is a copy of the agreement that's currently in place for all the participating jurisdictions for calendar year 2017. It's my understanding that Sergeant Billings will be sending a revised or updated version for 2018. It should essentially be substantively the same as what you have before you, and so that would, when we receive that, that would actually be the agreement that we sign of the revised 2018 version, and your action would be effective on January 1st of 2018 if this motion would.
Thank you. Further questions or discussion? I guess I thought I read somewhere, or I thought I heard somewhere, that Couchiching County is joining, and Chief, can you enlighten us on that at all?
Well, I spoke with we met with the sheriff, Sergeant Billings, and I met with the sheriff.
Okay. So that possibility that the Couchiching County may become a member of the task force, and I guess you can be a participating or a non-participating member. So you don't have to have an officer included, but to do that. So very good. Further discussion? Hearing none, the chair would then place the question on the agreement.
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion is carried, and the agreement and the signing or the necessary signatures are approved. Thank you. Item number 2 then relates to item 1, and that's with that appointment of the investigator by the Chief Rich Maston. Then we would have a vacancy in a patrol officer position, and the Chief is recommending the appointment of Kalen Schneider as a full-time patrol officer effective January 1st, 2018. Council's pleasure with that? Motion by Councillor Jacksaw to approve the appointment of Kalen Schneider as a full-time patrol officer. Second by Councillor Briggs. Discussion on the motion or the appointment? Please.
I have no issue with getting a new patrol. I don't mean to keep beating a dead horse on this, but this is at lieu of getting our streets and our water and everything else fixed in the next year. That was our goal going into our budget this year, and we went through the process. We all sat through the meetings, and the process worked. I mean, this is what we decided as a council that we're going to go with. It pains my heart to know that we discussed in great detail how we were going to fix streets and roads and water and utilities, and I believe that we need to make sure that drugs are taken care of in our community and stuff too. It's just, with a heavy heart, I'll vote for this new officer, but everybody know that that's what we're doing. We're voting for a new officer over fixing our streets and our water.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
However, the budget cut to the P&I account was greater than the cost of this officer, so our shortfall was larger.
I think that's a fair statement, Councillor Droba. I think certainly streets, sidewalks, water and sewer affect citizens. I think the council is making a good decision here in that drugs can affect citizens even more, and so I think it was a good move on the part of the city council to do this, and hopefully we can see less families and individuals hurt by the drugs that are moving around the area.
If I may, I would just point out, and I don't necessarily see this as an either-or issue. It's very clear that all the council has concerns with the condition of our infrastructure and our streets, and it's important to note that we're working with our engineers in terms of assessing the street condition and coming up with some estimated costs for what needs to go into the repair of the streets. We're also in the process of looking at our underground infrastructure, our sanitary sewer lines, our water distribution system, our storm sewer system, to see what needs to be repaired with those. And once we get that information from our engineers, which we anticipate having this fall or early winter, I think we want to have some very deliberate conversations with the city council about looking at what needs to be fixed and when, based on that complete information of also looking at our underground infrastructure. And so prioritize the streets that need repair as well as the underground infrastructure at that time. And the council will have to look with a fair amount of deliberation as to how we want to pay for that. And we do have options for looking at how to pay for that. We can issue bonds. It would be subject to a referendum as the charter is written now. But if the public moves forward with that, then we can move forward with a fairly expansive improvement project to do that.
Very good. Further discussion with regard to item 2 and the appointment of a full-time patrol officer? Hearing none, question then on the approval of the appointment of Kalen Schneider as a full-time patrol officer.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion is carried, appointment is approved. Thank you. Item 3 being deleted, we would move to item 4, and that's consider the approval of an independent contractor agreement with a payment of $47,435 to the International Falls Area Chamber of Commerce effective January 1, 2018. The authorization of signatures.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion to approve the contract.
Motion by Councillor Jacksaw to approve that contract.
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Droba. I know we have members of the chamber here. Did you want to make any statements at this time or have any discussion? No?
Not in particular, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. McCarthy?
this is not the first time that I've discussed this matter of the contract between the city and the chamber here. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to do the kind of in-depth analysis of what the mission and the charter is all about as far as the Chamber of Commerce. But on the basis of my business experience here, I'm assuming that the primary purpose of the Chamber of Commerce is to serve the needs of business. There's been a dilution of the membership here of the Chamber over a period of time, and I consider those people that or organizations that are either governmental or quasi-governmental or non-profit to be a little bit different than from what my concept of the Chamber of Commerce was, recognizing here that at this point in time I do not have any recommendations. However, I see that the contract basically from a cursory analysis has been cleaned up somewhat. Here, I don't see anything here about the 4th of July celebration. I do not object to the 4th of July celebration. I think somebody has to pay for it, and it's a wonderful thing as far as the city is concerned. What I do object to is where you have things that are on the gray area that has to do with advertising. To me, the city should not be involved with taxpayer dollars with respect to advertising. I don't know what basis the membership dues here are, other than what was given to me 2 years ago here, but generally an organization finances themselves primarily through what is known as a membership here. And well, the dollar amount is one and the same as it was a year ago, so there isn't any increase here, and the language is a lot easier to understand here. I still have some very basic questions here, which unfortunately without any recommendations. But now that the things that occupied my time here over a period of time are just about coming to the end. So I will be able to put forth the benefits if the council chooses to listen here to some of the things based on the experience that I have in the area of business. Okay? I have limited experience in the area of government here. However, I do have some experience at the highest level of the state of Minnesota. So, to wind the things up, may I ask who drafted the contract?
Administrator, can you answer that question, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this would be a form that was drafted by the Chamber of Commerce, and it was reviewed on at least one occasion, and we had 3 meetings, I believe, with staff of the Chamber of Commerce, and I say staff, also including Board of Directors members from the Chamber, but the document was prepared and submitted to the city by the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. guess I would only make one comment with regard to the July 4th celebration. It's outlined in the city charter, has been for as many decades as I can remember, that the city will take and have a July 4th celebration or contribute.
I have no objection to it, Mayor.
Thank you. Further questions or discussions then with regard to the agreement with the Chamber of Commerce? Hearing none, Chair would then call the question on the agreement approval.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. There being 4 for and 1 against, the motion is approved. Agreement is approved. Thank you. Item number 5 under new business is a resolution approving the request by the Fire Relief Association to increase the pension amount from $2,900 a year to $3,300 per year of service. Chief, excuse me. Okay, you're going to make a motion to approve the resolution, adopt the resolution. Thank you. Motion by Councillor Jacksaw to adopt the resolution. Second by Councillor Briggs. Chief Manassa, did you want to make any comments with regard to that?
No, what I've included in the packet is all the basic information that goes along with that. Again, we're following bylaws that are set up by the association, and we're our goals here. So if there's questions, I can certainly answer them, but most of the information was, again, if there's questions, I'm able to answer.
Please.
This has no impact on city expenditures from property tax. It's independent of that, our general revenue fund, so I have no issue with this.
This would be from your remittance by insurance and then from your investments that you have with regard to your account.
That is correct, and we've been very diligent on keeping those is what we're talking about for a target goal, so we're well and above what we need to be solvent. So,
further questions for Chief Manassa? I think we're satisfied then. There's no further discussion or questions with regard to the motion to adopt the resolution approving the request of the Fire Relief Association to increase their pension from $2,900 to $3,300 per year. Chair would place the question.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion is carried. Resolution is adopted, and the increase in pension is approved. Thank you. Item number 6 under new business is 2018 license renewals, and those include the Family Dollar Store, a cigarette license, the Holiday Companies doing business as Holiday Station Store number 380, a 3-2 off sale, cigarette, gasoline pump, and restaurant license. I.H. Stewart Incorporated doing business as Super One, a restaurant license and a cigarette license. Kmart number 9689, a fireworks license and restaurant license. Menards, and that's their store number is 3507, and that is a fireworks license for Menards. Miners Incorporated doing business as County Market, a 3-2 off sale, cigarette, gasoline pump, and restaurant license. And then Super One Liquor LLC doing business as County Market Liquor, off-sale liquor, and a cigarette license. Council's pleasure with the approval of those license renewals. Motion by Councillor Pearson to approve the licenses as read. Second by Councillor Briggs. Discussion on the motion or the licenses. Hearing none, question.
Abstain.
No vote yes. There being 4 for the motion and 1 abstention, the motion carries and the licenses are approved. Item number 7 is a resolution on the controlling of costs at the North Couchiching Area Sanitary District. Your pleasure with that resolution. Motion by Councillor Pearson to adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Droba. Discussion on the resolution or the motion? Please.
Obviously getting the resolution and then reading through it, I just had a handful of questions that I wanted to talk to the director out there about. So I did contact Cindy Strand, and she gave a list of information about the contract that they have with East Cooch, North Cooch, and everybody else that is involved in that contract. So I did give all the members of the council a copy of that for information. In her words, she had said that there is a significant level of misunderstanding about how that contract reads. So she just gave me a fact sheet to drop off for all of us to be able to look at. I think that as I read the resolution, and I can support the resolution because I understand that we want to control costs, and I get that. However, in the last area where it says that to acknowledge the purpose, oh wait, that's not where I want to be. To oppose any budget or budget increases for the hiring of additional personnel to operate the collection systems. As I understand it, speaking with Cindy, if East Cooch were to hire another employee, those charges would be paid back to North Cooch. So it doesn't necessarily raise it. As I understand it, it would be putting money in the budget to pay. North Cooch's budget would have the monies to pay another person, and then East Cooch would refund that money back. So I can support the motion or the resolution because for certain we don't want to see any costs going up at East Cooch. I understand that, but I also think that it's slightly misleading because East Cooch would be paying those fees back to North Cooch Sanitary District.
I think Councillor Droba has hit the nail on the head for me in that the cost, if it's offset by the revenues, then there is no net increase in the overall budget, right? And therefore, I wouldn't necessarily object to the hiring of a 5th person. My concern is, after reading Cindy's analysis, is that when you a relationship, there are costs that exist within the North Cooch Area Sanitary Sewer District that aren't necessarily going to go away. And they're being shared by the 2 entities. So they're costs that aren't, they're fixed and they exist regardless of what you do. And when it comes to personnel, there is a certain fixed, you have to have a minimum staff. And Cindy alluded to that in here, that really it requires 4 people minimum to run the North Cooch Area Sanitary Sewer District, apart from the collection system. Given her last statement here, and I appreciate the hard work that the mayor and Councillor Pearson has done in working on the sewer district, but I have a little concern that we may end up with a result that we don't want with this resolution, especially given Cindy's, and she's an environmental engineer and very well qualified, so I tend to take what her analysis is saying quite seriously. The resulting cost of canceling this contract would be about $135,000 a year to the North Cooch Area Sanitary Sewer District. So if there's a net detriment by splitting off East Cooch from North Cooch as far as sharing personnel services, I can't support it.
I have a question in all of this. Resolution and not being part of the sanitary district board. Reading the resolution, I don't read anything about canceling or severing ties with East Cooch, but then I read that in Cindy's letter, and I don't know where that comes from, and so maybe I'm missing something that isn't there, or I'm reading into something that isn't there. And we've had conversations like this through council where there's a misunderstanding of where we're at, and we ended up just seeing that with Bacchus, because it seemed as if Bacchus thought through our budget committee that we were going to cut all funding to them, when that wasn't the case. The case was we were probably going to be cutting some funding to them. So I'm just wondering, is there anything coming from the sewer board in a conversation about severing ties with East Cooch? Because I've never heard anything about that.
Well, let me step back, if I may, and Councillor Pearson can certainly give her view of this also. But first of all, the district, the North Couchiching Sanitary Sewer District, was organized to operate a plant and a set of ponds. Nothing about being in the collection system business. And so, and as far as Ms. Strand being an environmental engineer, I don't know if she is or not, the operation of the plant runs very, very well. We have a very good operator there, or chief operator. I think what we're looking for is really administrative staff that can help to control the costs. In the first paragraph there, where they say that the fifth employee is going to be, that East Cooch is going to bear the cost of that employee, there's no agreement in place right now for that to happen. Now, maybe that's their intent, but we don't know that at this point, and I don't believe it has been stated. I think that the North Couchiching Sanitary Sewer District carries staff in case East Cooch needs help out there. The statement, the first bullet in the middle of the page that the executive director has given to us is that there's 4 employees to maintain its operation. Well, it started out with 2 employees. I certainly can concur that there's probably a need for 3, but if East Cooch is paying for a part or 1 employee, we've never had 4 employees out there, and the place has run well. It runs well on the weekend when there's no employees there. So I'm just confused as to how you reach that conclusion that you have to have 4 employees to maintain that operation of the plant. Further, I really wonder about being in the collection business, contracting for collection services. You know, the main line that runs between the ponds, where International Falls contributes effluent to the ponds, as do Rainier and the East Couchiching all contribute to the ponds. That main line that comes from the ponds over to the plant has not been maintained well. And I think earlier, before the meeting, we were having that discussion, and the city administrator has been told, shared with us at the infrastructure committee meetings, that the line has got a lot of sediment in there, and that the consulting engineers that have visited and have stated that. And so I don't think I don't think the North Cooch is taking care of things. So the city has to go in there and clean that line in order to help the flows that we have there. So, you know, there seems to be, International Falls seems to be just very heavily into the helping with that operation out there. And it seems to me is that we're carrying more than our fair share of the cost and load for this operation.
I agree with you that based on the way the billing occurs, that with no recognition to fixed cost, that we probably pay an unfair share of the annual operating expenses because it's all based on flow. But I am wondering if limiting the ability of North Cooch to hire another person who would be needed for help with East Cooch collection process, that this ultimately wouldn't blow up the contract. So even though it doesn't say it in the resolution, I'm wondering if the impact will be to, in fact, accomplish that. And I'm not ready to vote for that. I mean, I appreciate the homework, and you know more than I do because you go to those meetings every month. But I guess I have heartburn where you have the executive director warning us that there may be costs to us that will result in a rate increase if we take this action. So, pending, I need to have my own conversation over there and do some more homework. I feel comfortable. And I mean, everybody on the council is in unison. The fact that I think that the city pays more than their fair share, but I don't know if this is the problem with it.
Can I just ask one question? Because I guess I don't understand. Is there a proposal already out there to hire a new person? Is there a proposal on the table at the?
There's money in the budget to hire one sometime next year. That's what is proposed.
Officially.
Well, the budget hasn't been adopted, and that's why the resolution is to not have it be part of it. No, we can adjust the budget, but I guess as a person who has been in business for a long time, I don't know that just because you have a increase in the size of the collection system, do you automatically put on another person? I mean, there's no case been made to the board, the North Cooch board, that there's a need for an additional person.
So at this point, no one's requested a new person. There's just money that has been set aside in the budget.
No, they said that they would look to have a new person next year, and that's why they were putting the money in the budget. That's my understanding. Councillor?
What's going on over there?
There are some other shared costs within the contract that if East Cooch decided that they didn't want to partner with North Cooch for servicing their collection lines, might then 100% fall to the city ratepayers. And so, and she lists them here. And so I guess that's...
But there's no separation going on though. That's not...
There's shared costs though.
Correct.
And those costs will remain whether East Cooch partners with North Cooch or not. So they
would continue. I mean, we're talking about an additional person now.
Okay, right.
We're not talking about the person that's there or the contract that North Cooch has in servicing the collection system out there. We're not talking about that.
If the costs are fully reimbursed by East Cooch for this fifth person, then the net effect on the budget is zero. And why would we necessarily object to that?
Well, that we don't know. There's nothing has been proposed in the way of an agreement with regard to an additional person.
Well, I would never agree. Is that what they're asking?
Well, nobody has said that, and don't have an agreement with East Cooch that it's going to automatically be a fifth person is going to be assessed to them. We don't have that agreement. Is that correct, Councillor?
Yeah.
So we don't have any idea now if they want to take and set up a contract ahead of time and have discussions about that. But just putting it in the budget to have a fifth person hired next year, already, I know that some members of the North Cooch Board have already spoke out against that budget.
What is the vote? I mean, the city actually...
We haven't had a vote on the budget yet, but there have been members who have spoke out against it.
We have 6 city representatives on it.
Yes, we do.
And is it unanimous?
I don't know. We've never had a vote, so I can't tell you that.
The sentiment with those 6 you're assessing.
There's at least one of those has already spoke out with concern about that budget.
I guess I have heartburn over this because of the breadth of that resolution really goes beyond the issue at hand. So, I mean, it says that we acknowledge that the only purpose of NKSD is to operate a sewage treatment system. So we're with policy binding hands here, and I'm not sure that I want to do that, you know. And I'm not sure what this total impact means by passing this resolution. So I feel that it would be irresponsible of me to support this without further research. And so I need to take the time to go over there. Thank you, Harley, Councillor Drobo, for doing this homework.
Well, and in response to that, I would say, Councillor Jacksaw, that I don't think that the East Cooch is covering the cost under the contract, present contract. For example, you spoke to those items, those bullet items in the upper part of the statement here by the executive director. $600 for a truck. Got 4 trucks out there, so every employee's got a truck to drive. And you know, I don't know that $600 a year covers the cost of a truck. And certainly owning a truck is different than paying some mileage out to the to take a look at issues out in.
Totally agree with
There are times that there will be 2 and 3 employees out working at East Cooch, and a day or 2 at a time, maybe 3 days, maybe even sometimes up to the better part of a week, that they will have the majority of the employees working out in East Cooch, working.
So is this not more of a record-keeping problem to adequately track the costs incurred by staff for servicing the East Cooch Collection Sewer District and focusing our efforts on a better cost accounting system?
I think that's certainly a piece
rather
of it.
than jumping into a broad policy statement, I guess.
No, I just don't see hiring. The case hasn't been made to hire an additional person. I mean, can you automatically, because you add additional sewer clients, it means that you need to put on more staff right now? You need to see that doesn't make the case. I don't know. The city has, I believe, 4 employees in the water and sewer department that take care of the storm sewer system, and 2,700 households or customers.
They would take care of the water distribution system and the sanitary collection system with lift stations. That's what they would work on.
That's 2,700.
Right, that's correct.
Users in the city.
That's correct.
4. So because they add several hundred more, 160 more, I think is the number, 160 more users in East Cooch, do you automatically put on someone else? That's my argument.
It's density that matters there, because the length of line between households has a direct impact on how much effort you're going to use to maintain. Oh, it costs less to maintain a sewer line on a block of people than it does on a mile of widely spaced. No, it costs costs less than it does, I'm saying this right, than it does to maintain a line for the same number of households strewn over 20 miles. Because it's just a function of, you know, the amount of line and not solely a function of the number of users. So I guess what I'm going to do, because I do respect the hard work you do, and because I really don't know, frankly, and because I want to do some more research, and because I believe that this isn't, we have time, I respectfully say I'm going to probably abstain on this and not vote no or yes, because I just need to know more.
I need to know more too. I need to understand the resolution a little better so far as where it says request the representative of the city that are appointed to oppose any budget. Does that mean if we pass this that those 6 members have to vote that way? Or does it just mean that we're requesting that they vote that way or have more discussion on the budget so that they understand it better? That's the way I read it. We're not hard line telling them what to do. We're just saying, hey, you need to question more about what's going on with the budget, is all I see this doing.
That's exactly what it is.
All the discussion I've been hearing is we're trying to resolve what's happening between East and North Cooch. I see the resolution as just saying, hey, we want our reps to say, hey, before you pass a budget, understand it better to find out more about what's in it. So I can support that.
Automatically putting on an additional person, I don't think a case has been made at all. Now, if the additional line and users come on to the East Cooch system next July, and I was talking to one of the clients out there today, and he said he knows that he's not going to be hooked up until next year. And so if the number of hours of the North Cooch operators starts increasing, then you could take a look at it. But I think you know very well that you can increase at overtime costs and still be less expensive than putting on a full-time employee.
Well, I can't imagine that they're going to bring everything on up there and not need additional, whether it's a full-time FTE or part, because just about all those places up there are grinder stations, which require more maintenance, and you're going to have a lot more lift stations or whatever, pumps to pump it back to the system. So, you know, manpower-wise, they're going to need more people, but that's an East Cooch thing, not North Cooch, and they need to pay for that, not anything to do with it.
That's what we're asking.
And that's where I see this is making sure our reps understand that are on the North Cooch, and making sure that person is not being hired, you know, or if it's hired, East Cooch is paying for it.
And to be properly billed out, which goes to a cost accounting issue. I think...
Because I drive up there every day, and I see all the work they're doing, and all the stations and everything they're doing, and I know from even when East Cooch went out there with, you know, all those grinder stations, each individual. It's not like here where you just, it goes down the sewer and it just gravity feeds to a lift station. There you got grinder stations that's grinding their stuff up and pumping it through to a lift station. So there's more maintenance. So.
Good point. I think that the reality is that, and I verified this with the mayor, East Cooch doesn't have any staff except for Don Billick. He's on a payroll, right? But he's not on the North Cooch payroll. He does get, they have a separate checking, okay. Outside of that, there ain't no staff over there in East Cooch. It's just Don. So historically, North Cooch staff have been working for East Cooch, and hopefully the costs have been fully reimbursed to North Cooch for East Cooch work. And that's why we need a good cost accounting system to make sure that is happening. But that's why they rely on North Cooch. That's why this contract is important. And my point is that there are shared costs that won't go away if East Cooch should set up their own.
We can debate that all day, but I see the resolution here is kind of basically giving our thoughts as a council to our city representatives on North Cooch that, hey, we don't increase the budget until you understand it, and making sure that if you're going to add an employee, that East Cooch is paying for it, not us. So I can support this if that's what that says.
Well, and further, and I guess I would ask Councilor Pearson, my limited time there, I don't know that there's a lot of work on grinder stations as much as there is on lift stations.
Okay.
And I don't know how many lift stations we have here in the city.
Let's say 14.
We have a lot of lift stations, a lot more than they have out there.
And I know what they look like because I worked on them. I know
Okay.
exactly. You know, there's 3 pumps in each one probably.
So just putting on additional, I'm sure they're going to end up with some additional lift stations, but just putting on more grinder pumps, I don't know that that's going to increase the workload out there significantly. I don't know that.
They're going to be new, and the ones
They're going to be new. Yes.
older and haven't been touched in a long time, so there'll be that difference
You got
also.
from Rainier to Crystal Beach, or not, to the Bowman's Landing there, are all old. Those are all 20, 25 years old. So.
And we don't have that much problem with them. They've changed them out if they had a problem. And the new ones should be new.
And they've been recently replacing those grinders, so most of that should be new now.
Yeah, the case has not been made, in my estimation, for adding an additional person automatically from North Cooch.
But I would envision that they're going to need a little more help.
That's possible. I don't think it ought to be up to North
It
Cooch.
needs to get built East Cooch, not, I would expect my sewer bill to go up, not your guys's.
Further questions or discussion? Okay, Chair would then call the question on the resolution.
Aye?
Abstain.
And I'll vote yes. There being 4 for the resolution and 1 abstention, the resolution is adopted. Will be noticed to the North Cooch. Thank you. Any other new business? Hearing none, we'll move to reports of boards, committees, department heads, and city administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I just wanted to update the council. I received a notification from the Soil and Water Conservation District for Coochiching County, and they've indicated that there's 2 public information meetings coming up. One is on October 23rd from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. With a presentation between 5 and 6. And then there's a second meeting on October 24th between 4:30 and 6:30. And it's just updating the public regarding the water quality sampling that's been occurring, and there will be MPCA representatives there as well as Soil and Water Conservation District representatives. So I wanted the council to be, and the public to be aware of that. Other than that, I don't have anything I want to present, but I'm available to answer any questions if the council has any.
You know, never heard of any issues with the Rainier or City Beach this year. Thinking we were doing sampling and everything, so it must have been a good year that we didn't have any issues like last summer.
There were no issues as far as water quality concerns. We did do testing once a month. The Public Health Department for Coochiching County had actually collected the samples. It was taken down to Pace Laboratories down in Virginia, which did the testing. It all came back clean. There was no problems. And then the City of International Falls paid for the testing at City Beach, and Rainier paid for the testing at Rainier Beach. And then they have actually complete coverage. We scheduled our testing dates about 2 weeks after they were doing testing over in Canada, into Fort Francis Beach, to make sure that we had good coverage, and we received no notifications of any water that would not be swimmable. So it met well within the standards. So it worked out well, and I appreciate the council's participation. That the testing cost us, I want to say it was $25 a time, so it was very modest, but we were assured that the water quality was adequate for swimming.
Very good.
Other questions for the city administrator? Thank you, and thank you, city administrator. City attorney.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Call on Kelly Myers for construction and building.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Actually, the building numbers are actually not too bad. Values are down a little bit. Of course, that's due to 2015. We did increase. One thing that you'll notice, the commercial projects are down a little bit from last year, and that's basically because due to the airport, we had a bigger project last year, so.
Questions for, I guess I would have just a couple of questions on the report. And first of all, in the chart immediately underneath the 3 years that's pointed out there, mechanical, and what would
Mechanical would do like nothing that you see with the plumbing is you only plumbing always looked light and if you wanted to, but I've always did it is I don't make a separate permit for plumbing. Water heaters have always been kind of an issue. Always get them on
good. Well, I think that's, excuse me, go ahead.
When I look at this graph and I eyeball the green bar,
yeah.
and then I take those numbers, which I'm interpolating by looking down at the x-axis, right? And I add them all together, it comes out to more than 78. I mean, you've got 55 in remodel, you've got 35 in roofing. 35 plus 55 is 90.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the other ones. So, I mean, it doesn't add up.
And the answer one to that is showing where they're all together.
Oh, okay.
It's a deceiving chart. I never look at it that way. I do understand where you're
Was that asked earlier and I wasn't following?
No, it wasn't, but that
Okay.
makes sense. I'll look into that. I can't why it's that way, but that would be. A lot of these, when you look at 5, A lot of these siding and windows are probably part of that permit, but it pulled it out. Siding, doors. I'll look into that. I do see where you're coming.
And my question, and thank you for Councilor Jackson, I think that was a good question. What I see here in that lower graph where it says windows and doors, and it shows a good increase in 2017, siding was over the other years, decks. It would seem to me that we're seeing a pretty good investment in the home stock or the housing stock of International Falls. And can I draw that conclusion, or is that not?
No, I think you have a very good. And they're trying to do.
And on the, if I may, on the Kutaska grant for improving multiple family dwellings, were any of these permits, were they given any permits under that program?
Actually, I don't believe any of those I have a couple multi-families that are actually worked over pretty part of that program. I have one on Second, Boise Housing, that one totally got remodeled. It's very nice now.
On that grant program, that did not happen. And then how about the difference between private and private homes and then those that are being rented out or owned by landlords? Is there a distinction there in your?
I'm seeing more with
Very good. Other questions? Please.
Yes, sir.
So this is my third year on council. First year that I was on council, it came up at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting about permits and that our permitted fees are low. Where are we right now in basis to other communities in Minnesota? It does take into consideration. up with before, probably not our next Budget and Finance Committee meeting, but a proposal on some fee increases for our next budget meeting?
I did have a request from administration.
All right.
And I do have some on my list.
My question too, Councilor Droba, thank you, because we've been circling the drain on the fees for quite a while. I'd like to see something, a proposal in front of the council, so we can move ahead.
Okay, I will.
City Administrator.
I would just add, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate Kelly's conversation, and he is in the process of researching that information, and I guess I was anticipating that we would have that information and present it at some point before we adopted the final budget for next year to review that, see if we wanted to make revisions. So sometime, probably next month would be sometime that you could anticipate seeing something.
Fantastic. That was unexpected.
Further questions for the zoning administrator, building official? Thank you, Kelly. Thanks for your report and for being here. We'll move to reports of the mayor, council committees, boards, and commissions.
I have three things. First was just we have a budget and finance, or I'm sorry, not a budget and finance, a public works meeting on November 2nd, I believe it was?
Yes.
November 2nd at 1 o'clock for any of the council or residents that would like to be here. It's November 2nd at 1 o'clock. Second thing I'd like to talk about is, if you look under our reminders, we have a project steering committee meeting on October 26th at 8:30 a.m. and then that evening we have the Highway 53 project at 6:30 to 8:30 at American. And coincidentally, that is also the day for the League of Minnesota Cities regional meeting in Virginia. All three I want to do. The reality is I spoke with the mayor briefly this afternoon about if I were to go to one of the League of Minnesota Cities regional meetings somewhere else, and it's essentially the same information in different cities. So it was passed from the council in a couple months back to be able to go to the regional meetings. Would I be able to go to one of the regional meetings outside of Virginia?
We'll approve it.
I think that would be fine, given the limitations or the conflict in the schedule. My recollection is that there was a meeting in New Ulm and then one in the Twin Cities. I believe it was in Plymouth.
Absolutely. And that's what I just looked at. So, okay, that was my question. And then the last thing I want to say, and you know, I would love if everyone were to hear this, but when I first got on city council, our first year was just a lot of fighting and tension in the room, and we went through that, and the second year was getting a little bit better. Tonight, we're working really well together, and we did throughout the entire budget committee meetings, and we're having great discussions, and no one's getting bent out of shape or upset with anybody. And I just want to thank everybody from administration, staff, this council, because we're working well together. We're having discussions and we're not getting down each other's throats about things if we differ. And I really want to thank everybody for the civility of this council, because we've been able to really work well together. So thank you guys.
You're kind. Thank you.
Evening of the, oh, never mind. That 19th, that night, there'll be legislators in town over at Union Hall. I was mixing that up with the 26th. That's this Thursday. I was thinking next Thursday. But just so council knows, if you haven't heard, Bach and Eklund will be at the hall on Thursday nights, so you'd have a chance to visit with them if you want. Along with some gubernatorial candidates.
Congressman Nolan will be present, will he not?
He will be as well, yeah.
Other council committees, boards, and commissions? All right, thank you. Got my report. Just a couple words. Thank you for those that were able to attend the ribbon cutting at the airport. Appreciate you taking time to be a part of that celebration. And then this afternoon, ribbon cutting at the Green Acres Park, and the good work that was done by so many to make the improvements in that park, and citizens just very, very pleased with both of those projects. Very, very well done. Go to the audience. Anyone in the audience that has something to bring the attention of the council at this time? The Grand Mound site visit tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Councilor Droba has mentioned the other items there, and our next regular City Council meeting will be Monday, November the 6th at 4:30. There being nothing further to come before the council at this time, we'll stand adjourned.